Long before the world knew of Easter Island's existence, the first Polynesian voyagers arrived on its shores, drawn by whispers of a distant land veiled in mist and mystery. This was a place untouched, a blank canvas for a new civilization to be born. Amidst the wild terrain and dense forests, these early settlers began carving enormous stone figures, moai, that towered above the treetops like ancient guardians. Each statue was more than just stone. It was believed to hold the very mana, the spiritual power, of ancestors long past. But the island held secrets beyond the towering giants. Elders spoke of hidden shadows lurking in the dense woods, omens and signs that the island's power was double-edged. The moai's silent gazes were both protective and watchful, as if guarding against dangers unseen. Unspoken tensions simmered beneath the surface, as clans vied for honor and control over these mystical sentinels. While the statues united the people in reverence, they also whispered of rivalries and silent promises of power that could shatter the fragile peace. In the quiet of night, when the island lay beneath a blanket of stars, strange lights flickered near ancient sites, and shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. The island's true nature was hidden, waiting patiently to reveal the story that would shake its people to their core. Easter Island thrived like never before. The air was filled with the sound of chisels striking volcanic rock, as master sculptors worked tirelessly to create ever more magnificent moai. These stone giants stood as eternal symbols of clan pride, spiritual devotion, and political power. The islanders organized massive communal efforts, thousands of hands moving huge statues from quarries to ceremonial platforms, weaving a complex tapestry of cooperation and competition. Feast days echoed with music and dance, where rival clans flaunted their latest moai as badges of honor. But beneath the glittering surface of prosperity, the first signs of trouble stirred. The dense forests, once lush and unyielding, began to thin as trees fell to fuel fires and to clear land for farming. The soil, once fertile and rich, grew tired and worn. With resources shrinking, rival clans eyed each other with suspicion. Secret meetings were held in shadowed caves. Whispers of sabotage and betrayal crept through the island's villages. Some claimed sacred groves were deliberately destroyed to weaken opponents, others feared hidden curses unleashed by angry spirits. The unity once forged by shared traditions frayed at the edges. Honor turned to rivalry, and celebration to quiet resentment. The Golden Age was bright, but its glow cast long shadows, threatening to consume the island's fragile harmony. The island's lush forests, once a sanctuary of life and mystery, now whispered their final farewells. Towering palms and ancient trees that had stood for centuries fell one by one, felled by axes and flames to feed the insatiable needs of a growing population. The soil, stripped bare and battered by relentless cultivation, turned brittle and lifeless. Gardens that once flourished with sweet potatoes and yams began to fail, leaving hungry mouths and restless hearts. But the forest's death was not simply an accident of carelessness. It was marked by desperation. As food grew scarce, rival clans waged secret wars under the cover of night, their fires consuming not only trees but the hopes for peace. Old tales spoke of sacred groves burned in rage, of ancient trees toppled not for timber, but as symbols of defiance. The very land seemed to recoil, as storms grew fiercer and the island's fragile balance tipped toward ruin. The elders, once revered as keepers of wisdom, fell silent or vanished mysteriously. Some whispered that a curse had taken hold, that the island's spirit was punishing its children for their hubris. In these dark days, the islanders faced a stark truth: the life-giving forest was dying, and with it, their civilization's future hung by a fragile thread. What once united the islanders, the towering moai, had now become symbols of division and strife. The great stone giants, once revered as sacred ancestors watching over the people, were toppled and shattered in violent displays of power. Clans that once collaborated now waged bitter wars, their battles fought not only with spears and fire but with the destruction of each other's moai. To tear down a statue was to strike at the heart of a rival's honor, a public declaration of dominance and vengeance. Secret alliances formed under the cover of darkness, while betrayals festered like poison in the shadows. The island was torn apart by feuds fueled by fear and desperation. No longer were the moai silent guardians. They were trophies of conquest and warnings to enemies. Amidst this chaos, ancient rituals took on darker tones. Shamans called on forgotten spirits, seeking power to curse foes or protect their clans from the impending doom. The sacred grounds, once places of peace and worship, turned into battlefields stained with blood and broken stone. In the midst of war, trust vanished. Families were divided, friendships shattered, and the island's unity was lost. The moai, giants that once inspired awe, had become weapons in a deadly game, their fall signaling not just physical destruction but the collapse of a civilization's soul. Amid the turmoil of war and fading forests, a silent enemy multiplied beneath the island's feet. The rats. These small, unassuming creatures feasted unchecked, gnawing away at the island's seeds and young saplings, their numbers swelling beyond control. But these were no ordinary pests. Whispers spread among the clans that the rats were more than mere animals. They were agents of destruction, perhaps even instruments of a hidden hand. Some suspected a desperate faction had unleashed them to hasten the island's downfall, a final, covert strike in the shadows. As the rats ravaged the land, crops failed with alarming speed, and the fragile food supply dwindled further. The islanders' plight deepened, their survival growing ever more precarious. Elders and shamans grew frantic, calling upon ancient powers to banish the invaders, while others sought to understand if the rats were a curse or a natural calamity. The balance of nature was shattered, and no clan could escape the rats' devastating reach. In a world already crumbling from human hands, this tiny invader accelerated the collapse, an unseen, creeping doom that gnawed not only at the island's resources but at the very hope of its people. Darkness deepened beyond the dying forests and shattered stones. The islanders began to speak in hushed tones of an ancient curse, a wrath awakened by their own hands. Strange happenings unsettled even the bravest souls. Children vanished without trace. Elders fell ill with mysterious ailments that no healer could cure. Night skies flickered with eerie lights, and shadows seemed to shift on their own, watching, waiting. Shamans claimed the island's spirit was angered, its fury unleashed upon a people who had broken sacred laws. Every misfortune was seen as proof, the curse was real, and no one was safe. Paranoia spread like wildfire. Clans turned suspicious eyes on each other, accusing neighbors of inviting doom through dark magic or treachery. Friendships shattered as fear poisoned trust. Ancient relics were hidden, sacred rituals performed in secret, desperate to appease unseen forces. Yet the curse only seemed to tighten its grip. The island, once vibrant and full of life, now trembled beneath an invisible shadow. A haunting reminder that sometimes, the greatest enemy lies not in swords or nature, but in the fears that consume a people from within. The horizon blazed with sails unlike any the islanders had ever seen, foreign ships cutting through the Pacific waves, heralding a new era of uncertainty. The arrival of Europeans brought awe but also fear, curiosity shadowed by suspicion. The islanders watched as strangers stepped ashore, bearing strange tools, unfamiliar weapons, and unknown diseases. These outsiders were both a promise and a threat. Some clans sought alliances, hoping to gain advantage over rivals, while others braced for invasion. The fragile balance shattered further as foreign influence seeped into island life. Trade goods tempted some, but so did the deadly invisible plagues that soon swept through the population, ravaging families and weakening the once proud people. Slavery raids followed, tearing apart communities and scattering survivors. Ancient traditions faced extinction as European powers imposed their will, and the islanders' struggles became entwined with a world far beyond their remote shores. In this collision of worlds, Easter Island teetered on the brink, a civilization already broken, now facing an uncertain future under the shadow of outsiders. The moai lay shattered, their once proud forms toppled like fallen gods, scattered across the island as grim reminders of lost glory. Yet even in ruin, the islanders clung fiercely to their identity, gathering for one final, desperate stand. Clans, battered by years of war, famine, and disease, now faced an enemy within and without. Loyalties shifted like sand, betrayals cut deeper than any spear. In secret chambers, a hidden traitor's identity was revealed, a revelation that shattered alliances and ignited fresh fury. The last great battle erupted beneath the watchful eyes of the silent statues, now broken and powerless. Flames consumed what remained of sacred sites, and cries of desperation echoed through the night. Amidst the chaos, ancient prophecies unraveled, exposing long-buried secrets that questioned the very foundation of their civilization. Pride, ambition, and vengeance tore the island apart in a final, cataclysmic storm. When the dust settled, the island was forever changed, its people scarred, its culture fractured, and its giants fallen, marking the end of an era shrouded in blood and betrayal. The island lay silent, cloaked in the shadows of its once great civilization. Survivors wandered among the broken moai and barren fields, clutching fragments of a past slipping beyond memory. Centuries later, distant explorers and archaeologists would uncover the ruins, puzzled by the enigmatic statues and the scars etched into the land. Yet, even with their tools and theories, the true story remained elusive. Whispers persisted of darker truths. Ambitions that led to ruin, betrayals buried beneath stone, and secrets lost in the island's silence. Clues hinted at hidden rituals, forgotten alliances, and a cycle of rise and fall echoed through time. The people who once shaped this world faded into legend, but their story lived on, in the winds that sweep across the island, in the stones that stand watch, and in the questions that remain unanswered. Easter Island's lost world echoes as a haunting reminder. Every civilization's glory is fragile, and every downfall leaves a story waiting to be told. From the ashes of collapse, a whispered hope emerged. A forgotten heir, descended from the island's ancient bloodlines, rose quietly, determined to reclaim the island's lost glory and restore its shattered spirit. But this legacy was heavy, burdened with the weight of history's mistakes and the shadows of betrayal. Could the wounds of the past be healed, or was the island doomed to repeat its tragic cycle? As the new generation sought to revive traditions and protect the fragile land, the silent giants, those enigmatic moai, stood witness, their stone faces etched with stories of triumph and tragedy. Easter Island's tale became more than history, it transformed into a timeless warning. A mirror reflecting the fate of all civilizations who dare to ignore the delicate balance between ambition and survival. The island's future hung in the balance, a final question lingering in the salty winds. Will humanity learn from the silent giants, or are we destined to fall as they did?